Most people run away at the sight of a lion, especially one in labor. But what if running wasn't an option? What if something inside you told you to stay, despite the danger, despite the odds, and help one of the deadliest predators on earth in her most vulnerable moment? This is the story of Daniel Cross, a quiet man with a wild heart who walked into the unknown and risked everything to help a suffering lioness, and ended up witnessing something that left even seasoned wildlife experts stunned. What happened that day in the deep savannas of Tanzania was more than a rescue. It was a miracle. As the sun began to dip beneath the horizon, casting a golden glow over the highway, the world seemed peaceful, but for one tragic scene that would soon be etched into the memories of those who witnessed it. The hum of passing cars filled the air, the whir of tires on asphalt blending with the soft rustling of leaves in the evening breeze. Yet amidst this calm, a heart-wrenching sight was unfolding. On the shoulder of the road, just a few miles outside a small town, two dogs were found, chained together. Their fur, matted and dirty, told the story of their struggle. One dog, a large brown retriever, had a collar worn down by time, the metal tarnished from years of exposure. The other, a smaller black terrier, appeared skinnier, her ribs visible beneath the thin layer of fur. The two animals were tethered by a rusty chain, which was tied in a way that left them unable to escape, bound together not just by metal, but by the undeniable bond that formed between them over the days, perhaps weeks, of their suffering. It was an unlikely pair, one towering over the other, yet both showing the same signs of exhaustion, of neglect, of fear. Their eyes, wide and filled with confusion, met those of the few passers-by who noticed them. The retriever whimpered softly, its gaze shifting between the cars speeding by and the smaller dog. The terrier, looking equally distressed, pawed at the chain, as if she knew something had to be done. But the hopelessness in her eyes betrayed any belief that there might be help. They had been abandoned here, left to fend for themselves in a place where they would have no chance of survival, no hope of escape, unless someone found them. The scene seemed so surreal against the backdrop of the beautiful sunset. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, the soft light illuminating the two dogs, highlighting their plight. But the beauty of nature only served to contrast with the sadness of their situation. The two animals, so vulnerable, had been left on the side of a highway, forgotten by whoever had once cared for them, if they had ever been cared for at all. It was a passing truck driver who first noticed them. He slowed his vehicle as he spotted the pair, the image of their misery haunting his thoughts. He pulled over to the side of the road and got out, his boots crunching on the gravel as he approached them. The dogs, wary of strangers, took a step back, but the man was gentle, speaking softly, trying to calm them. The chain that bound them was tightly wound around a metal post, seemingly a deliberate attempt to keep them in place. It was clear they had been left here for a reason, though it was hard to understand why. Had they been abandoned by their owners? Or had they simply wandered too far from home, only to be cruelly discarded by someone who didn't care? The man felt a pang of guilt. There was so much he wanted to do, but he didn't know what to expect. With great care, he approached the dogs. He crouched down, extending his hand slowly to the retriever. The dog, hesitant at first, sniffed his palm before allowing him to pet its head. The terrier, meanwhile, growled softly, her small body trembling as she backed away, still unsure of the man's intentions. The man reached for the rusty chain, but it was so tangled around the post that it took him several minutes to untangle it. All the while, the dog seemed to calm down, the retriever leaning into his touch, the terrier watching him with guarded eyes. As the chain finally loosened, the man guided them away from the post, careful to not startle them. Once free, they stood there, side by side, unsure of what to do next. For a few moments, the trio stood in silence, listening to the distant sounds of the highway. The sun had almost disappeared now, leaving behind a dim purple sky. The man's heart was heavy as he realized that while he had helped free them, there was so much more they needed: food, water, medical care, and above all, love. They had been abandoned, but in that moment, they had found a glimmer of hope. The man made a call to the local animal shelter, explaining the situation. Within an hour, a team of volunteers arrived with a van, eager to help the dogs. They carefully placed the pair into the vehicle, and as they drove away, the dogs seemed more at ease, their eyes no longer filled with fear, but with the quiet trust of those who have been rescued. As the sun set completely, the last traces of light disappearing behind the hills, the man stood there, watching the van drive off into the distance. He couldn't help but wonder about the story behind the dogs, their past, their owners, and what kind of people could leave two helpless creatures chained together